The electrification race is still on. While Tesla may be the most talked about issue right now, there appears to be relatively little coverages of Chinese brands' moves on the field. Ground transportation is transitioning from its gasoline and diesel era to a connected, electric future that, unless things change, will rely on a supply chain controlled by China. Despite the fact that Chinese ICE vehicles are not yet game changers in the industry, the country is unquestionably important in the EV market. With the forces of numbers and sales, it would not be incorrect to argue that China has not challenged the United States in an EV race. Between January and September of 2021, global sales of pure electric passenger cars totaled 2.7 million units, according to JATO Dynamics statistics. The sum is 149% greater than the amount reported during the same period in the previous year. In this regard, it's worth noting that China's supremacy as a market for BEVs and their individual brands. According to the statistics, Chinese automobile brands account for 45% of worldwide sales, compared to a 15% market share in the whole passenger car market, when all the fuel types are considered. EVs obviously increase the market share of China's autos by 30 percentage points. However, it is vital to note that local demands account for a substantial portion of the success of Chinese BEVs. Around 95% of the volume sold by the companies stays in China, with very little worldwide penetration. Nonetheless, the robust sales are a clear sign of what's to come if governments throughout the world continue to drive the transition from ICE to BEVs. But China's supremacy is not limited to sales. According to the data, Chinese produced 6 out of every 10 BEVs sold globally through September. Despite owning 45% in worldwide sales, they also control 60% of production, implying the international automakers are already manufacturing BEVs in China. According to China's 14th five-year plan, 2021 to 2025, the Chinese government expects electric cars to account for 20% of all new car sales by 2025, with NEVs serving as the new generation of government vehicles. Different Chinese cities have different strategies for NEV adoption. For example, Shanghai aims to have half of all new automobile sales, including buses, trucks, postal vehicles, and government vehicles, to be 100% electric by the middle of the decade, which is even more ambitious than the country's 20% objective by 2025. China now has around 575,000 electric buses, 78,000 of which are freshly registered. From 2020 to 2023, China will have approximately 28,000 electric trucks and 157 heavy-duty vehicle types available. In contrast, as part of the administration's environmental commitment, U.S. President Biden intends to replace the government's vehicle fleet with electric vehicle technology. In 2021, he signed a Buy American executive order to boost the national electric car technology manufacturing industry and to strive for 50% of new vehicle sales to be electric by 2030. However, as of June 2021, less than 4% of new automobiles sold in the U.S. were electric or plug-in hybrids, equating to just 5,000 buses, 720 electric trucks, and roughly 95 to 115 heavy-duty vehicle types in the U.S., falling behind China in those niche markets. Biden's strategy not only fulfills environmental commitments, but it also intends to catch up with China and Europe. Up until 2019, the United States maintained 645,000 government fossil fuel-powered cars and consumed 375 million of gasoline and diesel fuel. Despite worries about air pollution in Biden's EV proposal, President Obama announced steps to require the use of American-made components in government-purchased automobiles. This may make it more difficult to adopt all EVs as soon as feasible, since manufacturing costs would be substantially greater than purchasing foreign-made components. In this regard, American-made electric car technology would be a lot more costly and less competitive than Chinese electric automobile vehicles. So China's risen to this position via more than a decade of strategic and large-scale expenditures. While China spends billions to extend its position as the world leader in electric vehicles, the United States spends orders of magnitude less. We need to bring more than chump change to the battlefield if we're going to win this economic war. So, to obtain a competitive edge and destroy U.S. competition, Beijing is using a whole-of-nation strategy, leveraging economies of scale and boosting national champion businesses like Huawei, BYD, and CATL because of geopolitical issues. A world-class automobile, truck, and bus industry in the United States is thus a national imperative. The contrast in magnitude and spending are kind of mind-boggling, TBH. Beijing has invested more than $100 billion in its electric vehicle business over the last decade and aspires to be a leader in future connected, autonomous, and shared cars. By 2021, Beijing intends to invest $120 billion in linked and driverless cars, as well as more than $400 billion in 5G technologies. China has also invested substantially upstream, spending billions to seize control over cobalt supply from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where it currently owns 8 of the country's 14 main cobalt mines. Similarly, China also has got 70% of the world's lithium supply. Yeah, as a consequence, the outcomes kind of speak for themselves. China has sold more than twice as many electric vehicles as the United States. BYD and CATL together account for 1/3 of the worldwide battery market. The United States government has made $180 million available for local governments to purchase electric buses under low or no emissions grant program. It's a good start. But there's a lot more work to be done when just 1,000 electric buses out of almost 1 million worldwide are used on American roads, compared to 421,000 in China. And the United States Postal Service's short-sighted proposal to electrify 10% of its new fleet wastes a significant opportunity. A commitment to full electrification will offer the scale needed to lower prices and then further entice both fleets of consumers to go electric. So, yeah. Private enterprises for the United States are aware of more severe competition, and they're doing their bit. Ford, for example, has declared intentions to invest $29 billion in electric vehicles and auto-driving, self-driving, whatever the heck cars over the next 5 years. However, in order to be competitive, let alone surpass China's leadership, federal government financing in the United States has got to be boosted dramatically. As seen by the approval of the CHIPS for America Act, a $22 billion package that includes $10 billion to stimulate domestic chip manufacture, Congress is beginning to recognize this as a bipartisan priority. However, the finance is still required, as a lot more work needs to be done. The federal government plays a critical role in sponsoring fundamental research and development, particularly in battery technology, as well as fostering cutting-edge enterprises that lack access to regular financial markets. It also plays a role in promoting the local EV industry as a matter of national security. States must increase funding for the U.S. Department of Energy's Advanced Technology Vehicles Manufacturing Initiatives, which helped Tesla become a global leader in electric vehicle technology, and also to extend them to encompass medium and heavy-duty electric vehicles and the like, and component manufacturing too. States must also expand the 30D light-duty EV tax credit to include all vehicle types. This isn't just about, national pride or whatever the heck. This is about the industrial basis and security of the United States. The car and truck manufacturing sector in the United States employs around 6 million people and represents 3.5% of GDP. In times of need, the country has resorted to its advanced industrial capabilities, first as the arsenal of democracy during World War II and again as the arsenal of health today. Large federal governments are not required in the long run and may be reduced when the transportation sector transitions to electric vehicles. However, without strong short-term government action, China is going to maintain its lead, leaving the U.S. in a dangerously behind position. Yeah. Although China is meeting its worldwide environment goals, it's apparent that the company is also using the EV industry to dethrone the United States in the expanding EV sector. The country's electric vehicle sector is well ahead of the United States in terms of governmental and economic backing for the sector. American lawmakers are concerned because the United States car industry has controlled the global market for decades and is also on course to be surpassed by China's next-generation EV industrial sector. Globally, though, there is an agreement that electric vehicle development may reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But the industry has rapidly become a proxy battle between China and the West. If China is able to meet both commercial electric vehicle demand and dominate cutting-edge technology, it honestly may just be able to marginalize the US in this market and boost its discursive influence in the electric vehicle and environment sectors. Most importantly, China is going to continue to spread and legitimize its state-run capitalism through the world as a viable option to achieving national success. As a result, China's electric vehicle growth is motivated not just by the Paris Agreement, but also by complex political calculations so that it boosts its worldwide status and financial standing or whatever. God, I say whatever a lot. Oh no. However, China's path to confronting the West is not going to be simple. Following China's advocacy for its Made in China 2025 plan to grow the Chinese manufacturing sector, including EV industry development, former U.S. President Donald Trump initiated a series of political maneuvers to stifle China's national aspiration. Though China no longer advertises Made in China 2025, they continue to grant massive subsidies against cutting-edge industrial growth, particularly in EV research and charging infrastructure construction. In 2020 alone, Chinese automakers sold 1.2 million EVs, which is, by the way, 4 times more than the US. But who's counting? And they also managed to keep inventing on a daily basis despite global impediments. Despite cutting a convincing figure with impressive domestically made electric car technology, China's EV worldwide competitiveness remains a question mark. Although China's EV expansion might assist, in accomplishing climate targets, state subsidies and political protection might reduce the economic competitiveness of national brands. Tesla's Model 3 was the best-selling battery-powered car in China in 2020, well outpacing Chinese counterparts in the worldwide market. Furthermore, Tesla creator Elon Musk has already accused Chinese automaker XPeng, XPENG, of stealing and copying Tesla's essential technology. At this point, Chinese buyers are less likely to buy a Chinese-made electric vehicle since it don't have the same recognizable reputation as Western manufacturers you see. And Chinese automakers have yet to dominate the overseas electric vehicle industry. So, there you have it. China is the apparent winner in this electric car technological battle because it has more defined of a time period and more defined of national goals and also a tremendous executive authority. The United States lags behind China, prompting President Biden to offer incentives that might assist in expediting the growth of the electric vehicle sector in both local and international markets. There's no question that China is stepping up its efforts in the field of NEVs. If the US is to win this competition, though, it's got to create and implement its own successful playbook. And the sooner that happens, the better. To summarize, China's dominating everybody and you should run for your lives. No. But China is dominating the electric vehicle race, and it is far from a certain conclusion. But it's far from certain who's going to win said race. But you know who's going to tell you who won the race? We are. So you should subscribe to our channel so we can tell you stuff. Later.